Martin and Sharon's relationship has grown over the past half year, with their love deepening and Martin's new business flourishing. However, their bond is tested when Sharon discovers a secret phone with messages from Jessica. Martin's ex, get a cup of coffee and settle down, because this story is inspiring from start to finish. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more inspiring stories. Martin and Sharon had lived together since the restaurant incident. Sharon met Martin when he was bankrupt. She saw something more in him than money, confidence and a sincere heart. It had been 6 months, but to Sharon, it felt like yesterday. Much had changed since then. Sharon helped Martin regain his passion for work and gave him a sense of stability. She supported Martin in restarting his business, and he opened a restaurant where Sharon worked as a waitress, using her experience to help. One day, Sharon was serving orders and helping in the kitchen, as usual. Martin was about to leave for a meeting, but couldn't find his phone. Sharon started searching his office and saw his phone in a sports bag. Just as she was about to call Martin, he said he had found his phone and left. Sharon was shocked. If Martin had found his phone, then what was the phone in his bag? Sharon unlocked the phone and saw a conversation with Jessica arranging a meeting. Sharon was devastated. How could he? Jessica had left him the moment she found out he was bankrupt, which was one reason he lost everything. Why would he meet her again? Everything was so perfect. And now she saw his second phone and the conversation with Jessica. She had to find out the truth. Sharon gathered her things and left the restaurant. She couldn't believe what she had seen. Her thoughts raced as she drove, replaying every moment with Martin. Had he been deceiving her all this time? She thought about their late-night talks, their plans for the future, and how he had assured her that she was the only one who mattered to him. Tears welled up in her eyes, blurring her vision. Sharon followed Martin's car to find out who he was meeting. She immediately saw him talking to Jessica in his car. It's true. How could he? I did everything for him, supported him in his hardest time, and he? Sharon thought. She couldn't bear to watch Martin ruin his life again. Overwhelmed with emotions, she turned the car around and drove home. Nothing made sense in her head. It was like Sharon was arguing with herself. She couldn't believe it. Everything was so perfect. Martin loved her, and they were so happy together. Everything was just starting to get better, and now this second phone, the conversation, and the meeting with Jessica. How else could this be explained? Jessica found out he was back on his feet and came back to ruin his life again. She only cared about money. Doesn't he understand that only I love him for who he is? Sharon thought. At home, Sharon couldn't find peace. She walked from corner to corner, replaying everything in her mind. She thought about all the moments they had shared, the laughter, the struggles, and the love that seemed so genuine. It was unbearable to think that Martin could betray her trust. Her mind raced with questions and doubts. How could he meet with Jessica, knowing what she did to him? Sharon's emotions were a whirlwind of anger, hurt, and confusion. She tried to rationalize the situation, but the pain in her heart was too intense. Finally, she couldn't hold back anymore and started packing Martin's things. If he wanted to return to his old life, he could leave. Sharon packed all his things and placed the suitcase by the door. As she packed, Sharon's thoughts were consumed by memories of the past 6 months. She remembered the night she found Martin in the restaurant, broken and penniless. She saw his potential and decided to help him rebuild his life. Together, they worked tirelessly to reopen his restaurant and make it a success. Sharon had given everything to support Martin, emotionally and physically. She believed in him when no one else did. Tears streamed down her face as she folded his clothes and placed them in the suitcase. She couldn't shake the image of Martin with Jessica. How could he do this to me? After everything we've been through? Sharon whispered to herself. In the evening, Martin returned home and was shocked to see the suitcases by the door. Confused, he began asking Sharon what this meant. Sharon found it hard to speak, as if a lump in her throat was holding back her words. Finally, she told Martin to leave and never come back. She knew everything and didn't want to hear more lies and excuses. Sharon, please talk to me. What's going on? Martin pleaded, his voice filled with desperation. He didn't understand what she was talking about. Sharon took a deep breath, her eyes filled with tears. I know about you and Jessica. I saw your second phone, she exclaimed, her voice breaking. Martin turned pale, his heart pounding in his chest. There's nothing between Jessica and me. I would never. You know what she did to me, he protested. Then why do you have a second phone? Why did you meet her? Sharon demanded, her anger rising. What second phone? What are you talking about? I don't have a second phone, Martin replied, utterly confused. Then what's this? Sharon threw the phone at him in anger. Martin caught the phone, opened it, and scrolled through the messages. His face turned even paler as he realized what had happened. At that moment, everything became clear to Martin. Everything fell into place, and he understood what was happening. It's all Jessica. Where did you find this phone? He asked, his voice trembling. In your sports bag, Sharon replied, her anger mingling with confusion. She must have slipped it into my bag at the gym. I knew she didn't show up there for nothing, Martin explained, shaking his head in disbelief. Even if she planted the phone, it doesn't explain why you want to meet her. Sharon insisted, still feeling hurt and betrayed. Meet her? No, you misunderstood. She ambushed me right outside the restaurant where I was meeting a partner, Martin clarified, his eyes pleading with Sharon to believe him. Sharon's mind raced as she processed Martin's words. She realized that she had almost played into Jessica's hands. It was all a setup, and Jessica nearly succeeded in breaking them up. But looking into Martin's eyes, she saw the sincerity and the pain. She knew she had to trust him. I'm sorry, Martin, Sharon whispered, her voice filled with regret. I should have trusted you. Martin pulled her into a hug, holding her tightly. It's okay, Sharon. It's not your fault. Jessica is the only one to blame. We can't let her get away with this, he said, his voice steady and determined. They decided they wouldn't let Jessica's schemes tear them apart. Together, they made a plan to confront Jessica and put an end to her manipulation. They knew it wouldn't be easy, but their love and trust in each other gave them the strength they needed. As they sat together, planning their next steps, Sharon felt a sense of relief wash over her. She realized that no matter what obstacles came their way, they could overcome anything as long as they faced them together. We're stronger than her, Martin said, squeezing Sharon's hand. We'll get through this. Sharon nodded, a small smile playing on her lips. Yes, we will, and we'll do it together. That night, they talked for hours, sharing their fears and hopes. They reaffirmed their love and commitment to each other, vowing never to let anyone or anything come between them again. It was a turning point in their relationship, making them stronger and more united than ever before. The next day, Martin called Jessica. He spoke with a heavy heart, saying he had a huge fight with Sharon and had nowhere to stay. Jessica eagerly invited him over, her voice filled with concern. She assured Martin he could stay with her as long as he needed. When Martin arrived, he was greeted by Jessica's warm smile. She led him into the living room, where they sat on the couch. What happened, Martin? She asked, her eyes full of false sympathy. Martin sighed, running a hand through his hair. Sharon went crazy with jealousy. She found a phone in my bag and thought it was mine. She accused me of meeting you behind her back. Jessica smirked inwardly, but maintained a concerned facade. I always knew Sharon had a jealous streak. I'm not surprised she reacted that way, she said, shaking her head. Martin looked down, feigning regret. I tried to explain, but she wouldn't listen. It was a terrible fight. She told me to leave and never come back. Jessica's eyes lit up with a hint of triumph, though she quickly masked it with a look of pity. I'm so sorry, Martin. You don't deserve this. I've always seen the good in you, and I still love you. I want us to be together again, she said, placing a hand on his arm. Martin forced a sad smile. I feel the same way, Jessica. I've missed you, he said, his voice heavy with false emotion. Just then the doorbell rang. Jessica looked puzzled but got up to answer it. Who could that be? She muttered as she walked to the door. When she opened it, her face turned pale with shock. Standing there was Sharon, looking determined. Sharon, what are you doing here? Jessica stammered, trying to compose herself. Jessica's face contorted with anger. You think you can just walk in here and take him away? He came to me because he knows I'm the one who truly loves him. Martin shook his head. No, Jessica. I know everything. Sharon is the one I love now. If you won't change yourself, you will forever be lonely. Jessica's anger turned to desperation. You can't do this to me, Martin. I love you. Sharon stepped closer to Martin, squeezing his hand. Jessica, you must understand that real love is built on trust and honesty, not manipulation and deceit. You can't buy or force love. Jessica's eyes filled with tears as she realized she had lost. She watched helplessly as Martin and Sharon turned to leave. As they walked out together, Martin looked at Sharon, his eyes filled with gratitude. Thank you for believing in me, he said softly. Sharon smiled, her heart swelling with love. We faced this together, and that's what matters. I love you, Martin. Martin hugged her tightly. I love you too, Sharon. Nothing will ever come between us again. Jessica was left crying and alone as Martin and Sharon walked away together, their bond stronger than ever. They knew they had faced a tough test, but their love and trust had only grown, making them ready to face whatever challenges the future might bring.